They built cities of gold, wielded armies that made empires tremble. Yet, history erased their names. These are forgotten African kingdoms, powerful nations that ruled long before Europe's rise, and left behind mysteries we're only beginning to uncover. For centuries, history was told through a narrow lens, a lens that erased Africa's place on the map of human achievement. In classrooms around the world, students learn about Rome, Greece, Persia, and Egypt, but few ever hear of Kush, Mali, Benin, or Axum. These weren't tribal settlements. They were empires with laws, scholars, trade networks, and armies. From the deserts of Nubia to the rainforests of West Africa, their stories lie buried under sand and silence, waiting to be rediscovered. South of ancient Egypt, along the banks of the Nile, rose the kingdom of Kush, one of Africa's oldest and most resilient civilizations. The Kushites mastered ironworking, built grand pyramids, and developed their own writing system. Their queens, called Kandakes, were warrior rulers who led armies into battle and negotiated with pharaohs as equals. One such queen, Amenarines, faced the mighty Roman Empire head-on. When Rome invaded Nubia around 24 BC, she led her people into war, and legend says she personally wounded a Roman general in combat. Rome retreated and signed a peace treaty recognizing Kush's independence. That's right, Rome, the empire that conquered half the world, failed to conquer Kush. Yet their pyramids, smaller but more numerous than Egypt's, stand in silence today, whispering stories of queens who refuse to kneel. Move westward to what is now southern Nigeria, and you find the kingdom of Benin, a city so advanced, European explorers call it one of the most beautiful and well-governed places in the world. Its capital, Edo, was a masterpiece of urban planning, protected by a network of walls and moats stretching over 16,000 kilometers. Those earthworks are still visible from space today, longer even than the Great Wall of China. The Benin people were artists beyond compare. Their bronze and ivory sculptures capture the life and power of their kings, the obis. With detail so precise, historians in Europe once refused to believe Africans could have made them. But in 1897, British troops stormed Benin City in what they called a punitive expedition. They burned it to ground, looted its royal palace, and carried away thousands of sacred bronzes. Those artworks now sit in European museums, behind glass cases, labeled Benin bronzes, reminders of the brilliance that colonization tried to erase. Then came Mali, a land whose riches changed the world's economy. In the 14th century, under the rule of Musa, Mali stretched across West Africa, from the Atlantic coast to the heart of the Sahara. Musa's empire was built on trade, gold, salt, and scholarship. His pilgrimage to Mecca became legendary. He traveled with tens of thousands of followers, camels laden with gold, and gave so generously that gold prices in Egypt collapsed for a decade. But Mali was more than wealth. Its capital, Timbuktu, was a city of learning. Scholars from across Africa and the Arab world studied astronomy, medicine, law, and mathematics. The city's Sankore University held hundreds of thousands of manuscripts, some of which still survive, hidden in families' homes, protected for centuries from colonial theft. Mali proved that Africa was not a continent of darkness, but of enlightenment. Far to the east, in the highlands of modern Ethiopia and Eritrea, rose the kingdom of Axum, a global trading power that thrived from the 1st to the 8th century AD. Axum's merchants traded ivory, spices, and gold with Rome, India, and Arabia. Its engineers built towering stone obelisks, some over 70 feet tall, carved from a single piece of granite. Unlike many empires of its time, Axum minted its own coins, proof of a strong economy and international trade. And it became one of the world's earliest Christian civilizations, adopting the faith long before Europe's northern kingdoms ever heard of it. When Axum fell, many of its stories faded with it, but its legacy lived on. in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, in architecture, and in the spirit of independence that still defines Ethiopia today, the only African nation never colonized. In the heart of the Sahel, where modern-day Nigeria, Chad, and Libya meet, another mighty realm rose, Kanem-Bornu. Founded over 1,000 years ago, it ruled trade routes across the Sahara, connecting West Africa to North Africa and the Middle East. Its rulers, known as Mai, built armies of tens of thousands and established one of the first standing diplomatic relations between African and Arab states. Kanem-Bornu scholars studied in Cairo. Its soldiers fought alongside sultans, and its influence lasted nearly a millennium, longer than most European empires. So, why do we learn about these kingdoms? Because history was written by those who conquered, and they decided which stories deserved to survive. But each pyramid, bronze, manuscript, and ruin tells a truth louder than any textbook. Africa was not a silent continent waiting to be discovered. It was a continent that discovered itself, long before the world took notice. So next time someone tells you African history began with slavery, tell them about Kush, Benin, Mali, Axum, and Kanem-Bornu, because the real story of Africa is one of power, innovation, and forgotten glory. This is Tales by Das, bringing hidden African history back to life. Like and subscribe, and discover even more lost kingdoms and personalities that time tried to erase.